And you don't have to sit there looking so serious. You can get up and move around and clap your hands if you want to. Open your eyes, open your mind, open your heart to infinite love. Open your eyes, open your mind, open your heart to infinite love. Open your eyes, open your mind, open your heart to infinite love. Open your eyes, open your mind, open your heart to infinite love. Open your eyes so that you might see. Open your mind so that you might know. Open your heart so that you may feel an infinite love, all encompassing. Open your eyes so that you might see. Open your mind so that you might know. Open your heart so that you may feel an infinite love, all encompassing. Open your eyes, open your mind, open your heart to infinite love. Open your eyes, open your mind, open your heart to infinite love. Open your eyes, open your mind, open your heart to infinite love. Open your eyes, open your mind, open your heart to infinite love. Open your eyes, open your mind, open your heart to infinite love, infinite love. My changes here. Love, pure love, 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 love, pure love. Keep it going. In the silence, I see your face. In the silence, I feel your grace. In the silence, I feel your love, pure love. Love, pure love. Love, pure love, love, pure love, love, pure love. In the silence, I see your face. In the silence, I feel your grace. Take a couple deep breaths. As you feel yourself relaxing, let go of any worries, any stress, any fear that you might have. Feel your heart opening wider to allow love in and love out. Just take a couple more deep breaths, and if you feel like you need to stretch, go ahead and stretch, and turn to the person next to you and tell them good morning, you're glad they're here. We know you probably had a lot of choices of things you could do this morning, so glad you're with us. Now, did everybody get the memo that Jackie wasn't going to be here this week and I would be here?
I didn't know it was you in here, but I did know
Somebody would be here.
somebody was going to be here.
Well, for any of you that I haven't met already, I am Michele Sevacko. I'm an ordained New Thought metaphysical minister, and I've got a little over 30 years experience in unity as my primary path, with the other New Thought branches on the tree, kind of woven in there, here and there. So today, we're going to talk about mind over matter. Now, how many of you are familiar with the term shift happens? I kind of get a kick out of that, especially when I first heard it. Shift happens, yeah. Because I do enjoy and sometimes employ innuendo myself. But what exactly does shift happen means? Well, it means that there are changes that occur. When I was growing up, my mom had a sign in her house that said, the only things that you can count on are death and taxes. As a young person, we had a lot of changes that went on in our family in a pretty short period of time. So I thought, well, okay, so there's a couple things that I think I can count on there. But it caused me to realize, though, at a pretty young age, going into preteens, teens, that I thought there was something else that I could count on. And that was change. Change seemed to be pretty constant. As I got older, I realized that change is happening everywhere. If you look around nature, it's constantly changing. We're part of nature, so we're constantly changing. But at that point, whether it was because of my age or the environment I was growing up in, I thought change was something that happened to me. And sometimes the changes that went on made me wonder what I had done wrong. I often felt like a victim of circumstances, situations, even other people, and pretty much stayed in that spot until I found unity 30-something years ago. And at that point, I realized somewhere along the way, I've confused God and Santa Claus. You know that song, Santa Claus is Coming to Town? You remember that part where it says, he's making a list, checking it twice, gonna find out who's naughty and nice, and then you know, if you're good, you're gonna get rewarded. If you're not good, then not so much. And so when anything that was less than good would happen, I would think, well, I thought I was being good, so why am I being punished? But then I found in unity that things didn't have to happen to you. They could happen through you if you were open to that and you allowed that. Matter is a physical substance. It occupies space. And everything is made up of energy. But the definition of the two are also distinct. Your thoughts are energy, and depending on what you're thinking, they can have a high or a low vibration. And they can move matter, so to speak. I think an example that we have in that, and if you've been around Unity for a while, you know that it's grounded and founded in metaphysical understandings of the Bible, with Jesus as a way shower, a master teacher. And what we read in Matthew is that we have the capability to move mountains. But is it just enough to think about things? Well, as a New Thought minister, I understand the importance of our thoughts and the role they play. But there's other things that we do to support those thoughts, which I'll get back to in just a little bit. There's a quote by Brian Adams in How to Succeed, which is, "Thoughts are things. They have tremendous power. Thoughts of doubt and fear are pathways to failure. When you conquer negative attitudes of doubt and fear, you conquer failure. Thoughts crystallize into habit, and then your habits solidify into circumstances." Now, he was focusing on what happens if you have thoughts of doubt and fear and things like that. But what happens when you do the opposite? What happens when your thoughts are about peace, love, joy? The things like gratitude that all have a higher vibration, the highest vibrations. Well, the same thing happens. Those thoughts then, when we focus on those thoughts, become our habits, and those in turn become our circumstances. Or at the very least, at least how we're going to respond to the circumstances. In Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill wrote, "What you conceive and believe you can achieve." I believe that. But I think there's also another component, which I've added, which is to expect. To me, that's something that helps us move forward in that experience. And I think Jesus was giving us that as an example when we would read about how he would give thanks in advance for that he was going to pray for, knowing that he would make it manifest. He expected it. And so now I'm going to share a song with you that I wrote several years ago called Expect. First you imagine, and then you expect, and you will receive. Oh, you all are so quiet. You're awake. Everybody's awake, right? Check your pulse. In the Bible, in Romans 12:2, we read, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewal of your mind." And after I'd been going to Unity for about 6 months, attending the services, somebody asked me how I liked it. And I was like, well, what's not to like? It's so empowering. And if you take those teachings and you incorporate them into your practices, it makes such a difference in your life. It can be transforming. And he said, exactly. Unity is not about conforming. They're about transforming. And that was something that resonated with me then and continues to resonate with me. Technically, I think every day offers an opportunity for transformation. It also offers the opportunity to wake up feeling refreshed and renewed in mind, body, and spirit. But I found that as I've gotten older, there's many mornings that I get up and just kind of schlep into the bathroom, and I look at myself in the mirror, and instead of saying, "Good morning, beautiful," I'm like, "Oh, you're looking kind of tired today, aren't you?" So when you look in the mirror, what are you seeing? Are you just seeing your physical experience? Or do you see who you are at the core of your being? I was friends with a Unity minister named Harriet Valier for many years. She made her transition a few years ago, but while she was the minister out at the Unity Village Chapel, she sent me a note card, and in it was a little poster card that said, "Objects in the mirror are more beautiful than they appear." That card stayed with me through 4 different moves over the course of about 20 years, if not more, as a constant reminder that I wasn't just what I would see when I looked in the mirror. I'm not just what other people see. I am much more than that, and you are much more than that. Sister Joan Chittister, a Benedictine nun, said, "I celebrate myself. The thought is so delicious, it's almost obscene. Imagine the joy that would come with celebrating the self, our achievements, our experiences, our existence. Imagine what it would be like to look in the mirror and say, as God said, that is good." And of course, she's referring to in Genesis, where God has created humankind and declares it good. We have to remember, we are that good. And it's not just an intellectual exercise. It doesn't stop with thought. Because when you have a thought, there comes a feeling. So how does it make you feel when you tell yourself something that's less than? And how does it make you feel when you compliment yourself or simply remind yourself, yes, I am a child of God. I am an heir or heiress to the kingdom. There's a saying by my longtime friend Mike Dooley, the founder of TUT, Totally Unique Thoughts and Notes from the Universe, if you're familiar with those. And the saying is, thoughts are things, choose the good ones. But remember I mentioned earlier that when you have the thoughts, there's other things that you can do to support those thoughts. The first is the feeling that you have. The next thing is that based on that feeling, you're going to say and or do things. And so all of these things are working together to support the thought. And that's what I call divinely aligned. That's when we've gone into alignment with whatever is God's will for us, which is going to be for our highest and best. But I know that sometimes it's not that simple. If it was, and all you had to do was think about it, I would be 5'6" and weigh 120. Now I know the only way I'm going to be 5'6" is if you put me on a rack and stretch me, maybe. And so immediately right there, if I think I'd like to be 5'6", but my following thought is, but that's not going to happen, I've negated it. So we have to pay attention to those things that we're declaring for ourselves and then end up following by negating it. As for weighing 120, most of the time my next thought about that is, I'll go on a diet tomorrow, and some of you may know how that goes. And then the next thing I do is I go into the kitchen and cut a piece of cake or pie, because I'm going to start my diet tomorrow. And so again, what I'm saying, what I'm doing is not supporting that thought. We also have to remember the importance of following through. How many of you are familiar with treasure mapping? Okay, for those of you who aren't, it's like a pictorial prayer. It gives you something to focus on during meditation. And what you do is get a poster board or some kind of a board, and you cut out pictures and sayings and things that are representative of what you would like to hold in prayer so that you have that visual. I had a friend in Roanoke years ago that had a 17-year-old car that she decided wasn't going to serve her any longer. So she set about making herself a treasure map with everything that she wanted in a new car. She picked the brand, the color, wanted power seats, power windows, either a sun or moon roof, air conditioning, and a CD player. And when she was done, I was like, are you sure there isn't anything else that you'd like to add? She's like, no, I think I've got it all here. I'm very detailed. And I was like, what about reliable transportation? And she kind of looked at me and I was like, you know, you could end up just sitting in your driveway playing with your windows, listening to your music, opening and closing your sunroof, if you don't have reliable transportation. So whenever we've got this thought that we're wanting to turn into a thing, it's always good to add this or something better, giving spirit that space to work in so that we're not so attached. It is good to be detailed and know what it is that we'd like, but not be so attached that we're not open to something else that might be even better for us. Our minds and our bodies are not separate entities, even though they seem to be treated as such most of the time. And I do believe that we have a divine physician that works in and through us. There are scientific examples of how they are intertwined, and one of the ways that shows up is in the statistics of how meditation will lower our blood pressure. Now, we're told in some schools of thought that meditation is the absence of thought. But there are other schools of thought that say that it's focus. Excuse me. That it's actually a deep concentration and deep focus. That's why when we were meditating earlier, I asked you to focus on your breath. In one of the most notable exhibits of their skills, a group of Tibetan monks who practice the focus meditation, focused breathing, it's a yoga technique that's called Jitiyamo. And during this process, the monks got wrapped in cold, wet sheets and then put in a room that was 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, the average person would be shivering uncontrollably in no time and could very well end up developing hypothermia. But as the researchers were watching these monks, in a short time, they saw steam coming up from the sheets. And within an hour, the sheets were totally dry. To me, that's mind over matter. I know you've probably seen cases and heard of athletes that picture themselves running a race, see themselves at the finishing line ahead of other people, excelling in whatever it is that they're doing. And they win. To me, that's mind over matter. My mom asked me once several years ago, she was exploring a supplement to use as an alternative healing remedy. And she asked me if I thought that would be good. And I was like, Mom, I think if you believe that blue M&Ms are going to cure you, they will. It's whatever you believe to be true for you. Well, she lived till she was almost 96. And after 5 bouts of cancer over the span of 45 years, she was cancer-free when she passed away. To me, that's mind over matter. And now I'm going to share a song with you that's titled What You Really Believe. A friend of mine named Doris Short wrote the lyrics for and then gave me the lyrics to put the music to it. What you really believe, it's what brings life your way. What you really believe, it's not just what you say. What you really believe, it will come to you. Life will give what you seek when you know it's true. When life's burdens get you down, you walk around inside. Just remember it was said, if only you'll try. Have faith of a mustard seed and hold it in the light. All is well to those who know that God will make it right. Make it right. Make it right. What you really believe is what brings life your way. What you really believe, it's not just what you say. What you really believe, it will come to you. Life will give what you seek when you know it's true. Did you know that thoughts of wings say fly up to the source? What brings are not the things we think about you really believe is what brings life your way. What you really believe, it's not just what you say. What you really believe, it will come to you. Life will give what you seek when you know it's true. I pray today that it will finally know it's true. And all will come to see, and it'll come to you. That man is what he thinks about, we are what we believe. We're created, molded, and formed by what our God receives. Let your thoughts take flight today, it's a journey to the source. Send them with love and light and hope that they will stay on course. These thoughts will return to you and bring you many things that you've always wanted and you ask for in your dreams, in your dreams, in your dreams. What you really believe is what brings life your way. What you really believe, it's not just what you say. What you really believe, it will come to you. Life will give it you seek when you know it's true. What you really believe is what brings life your way. What you really believe is not just what you say. What you really believe, it will come to you. Life will give what you seek when you know it's true, that it's true. You believe that it's true. You believe. Thank you. Focus on your thoughts. Pay attention to what it is that you're thinking about. You know, we belong to the New Thought movement when you're in unity. And I understand that we have something like 50,000 thoughts that go through the average person's head during the course of a day. Now, I know we capture some of them, but there's a lot of things that are just kind of fleeting that we miss. So really pay attention to what you're thinking. How positive is what you're thinking? What is the self-talk that you're doing and what you're doing for yourself? And then notice the feeling that comes after that and how you support it with what it is that you're saying, whether to yourself or to others, and the actions that you're taking. So now, myself in gear, feeling Okay. Now, the notes I got from Jackie said,